Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of KJ's What Happened, which covers this past week. In unusual news, usually, sometimes kind of mainstream stuff, but not typically. You'll see what I'm talking about. But welcome back. Hope you guys had a good week. I've been doing good. It's been nice getting back to work, and I've got some bigger videos I'm working on here, so I look forward to getting those out here real soon. And until then, I always collect my news stories throughout the week as I kind of put video ideas together. And this is typically the kind of thing I'll run across here and hold on to share with you guys. So, once again, really, thanks for being here. I know it's Tuesday night. I couldn't do it last night. I should be back on Mondays next week. So, thanks again. You guys may have heard about this one right here, week-long evacuation of solar observatory still a mystery. So it's a lot of conspiracies surrounding this one. At a small solar observatory tucked away in the woods of a national forest in Sacramento, U.S., scientists and other personnel were commanded last week to leave at once. A week later, the facility remains vacant and no one is willing to say why. The mysterious and lengthy evacuation in a state known for secretive military testing and a suspected UFO crash has spawned a wealth of speculation. Did the researchers spot something extraterrestrial? Was the solar telescope hacked by a foreign power and deployed to spy on, say, the state's missile testing range? Or is there an innocuous explanation suppressed only because of corporate and government resistance to transparency? Here's the tweet. National Solar Observatory, thank you all for your patience while the closure at Sunspot Observatory is resolved. Our other facilities remain open and NSO is operating as normal. Aura, our management organization, is addressing a security issue at Sunspot Observatory at Sacramento Peak, New Mexico, and has decided to temporarily vacate the facility as a precautionary measure. So on Friday, the entrance to the National Solar Observatory was blocked by yellow crime scene tape and two security guards who said even they had been kept in the dark. The guards from Red Rock Security and Patrol in Las Cruces, New Mexico, didn't give their names, but said was the first day the company was guarding the entrance and only the director and an assistant were allowed in. There was no obvious sign of law enforcement activity. We don't know anything. We're just as curious as anyone else, one of the guards said. A spokeswoman for the nonprofit group that runs the facility said the organization was addressing a security issue, quote unquote, but would offer no additional information other than, I can tell you it definitely wasn't aliens. She said Friday the facility will remain closed until further notice. Neither the FBI, which was spotted on the premises around the time of the evacuation, nor those who worked at the facility would tell local law enforcement what had happened. They wouldn't give us any details, House said. I've got ideas, but I don't want to put them out there. That's how bad press or rumors get started. And I'll cause paranoia, or I might satisfy everybody's mind and I might be totally off base. Unlike some of New Mexico's other research facilities, the Solar Observatory in Sunspot is not usually shrouded in such secrecy. The facility in the Lincoln National Forest in the southern part of the state is open to the public, and scientists who work there offer guided tours of the site. So there you go, guys. What's going on out here? I'm sure there's probably some updates by now on what's happening, or there will be soon. But I have seen some videos out there, just some titles. I didn't see the videos speculating what was going on out here. So this is definitely one of those to watch, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what develops. Mac Miller's secret last hours, fans raise suspicions and streams of bizarre conspiracy theories. Mac Miller's untimely death at the age of just 26 has left his fans reeling The rapper, real name Malcolm James McCormick, was found dead on Friday, September 7th at his home in Studio City in San Fernando Valley. It's believed that he died from a drug overdose, but the official cause of death is still undetermined. The medical cause of Mac's death is not expected to be known until the results from a toxicology exam come back in 4 to 6 weeks. There he is. In the wake of his death, fans have been searching for answers and sharing their suspicions and conspiracy theories online. Here's what some of them are thinking. His latest album foreshadows his death. Mac had just released an album, Swimming, on August 3rd and was due to go on tour next month. Some of his fans believe that the album, and in particular his song Self-Care, foreshadowed his death. The song features the lyrics, September I Fall, and in the music video, he's buried alive in a coffin. He's also seen carving the Latin words Memento Mori into the lid of his coffin. The phrase translates to remember that you must die. I mean, this stuff is interesting. It is. You know, we know there's plenty of evidence out there that not all, but some people out in Hollywood literally sign contracts. They sign their souls over. Sometimes that may be a little bit more metaphorical, but not all the time. So we know that that exists out there in some circles. So to hear them talking like this, it's very interesting, you know, especially if you said something to do with the contract, or remember that you must die or whatever, you know. It's like Club 27. So many famous artists died at the age of 27. A lot of people speculate that that's when their contracts ran out. His house was scrubbed clean and almost free of drugs. Mac's shock death raised questions after police found his home had been virtually scrubbed clean of illegal substances. Speaking of illegal substances, Chubbs is being kind of a jerk again. Hold on one second here. Here. Good boy. This happens every time. Even people that have talked to me on the phone, the same thing happens. Chubbs gets really, I don't know, he just gets real jealous, I guess. You know, he doesn't want me talking in any other direction but his. So he starts acting up every time. So there you go. And some of my shows I've actually had to put him in kitty lockup. So we might even have to do that tonight because he's being very naughty and keeps swarming around over here. But we'll see what happens. We'll keep our eyes on him here for a little bit. Anyway, so his house was scrubbed clean and almost free of drugs. Investigating cops found just a tiny amount of white powder at his San Fernando Valley home. Not enough for a fatal overdose. Okay. I was mainly interested in what he was carving in that video on his coffin. There you have it. But that's the way it is anyway nowadays. I mean, the Illuminati stuff is so mainstream now that anytime there's a celebrity death, everybody starts speculating. And so there you have it. I think there's a video with this one. Strange cloud formation puzzles Bay Area. Let me see. There it is. Thought these were pretty cool. You see that? It's interesting. So there's one. Another one.
Crazy clouds above the
It sounds like there's a story here.
Started calling us, emailing us. Oh yeah, that's crazy.
All right, let's watch this. Let's watch the clip.
Like big holes.
Yeah. Mostly people on the peninsula were saying that it was above them in like San Bruno, San Mateo, Burlingame, but. Above the bay today. People started calling us, emailing us. Yeah, Lawrence, you see these?
Oh yeah.
Lawrence.
That's crazy.
Those are gorgeous.
Like big holes in the
Yeah.
clouds.
Mostly people on the peninsula were saying that it was above them in like San Bruno, San Mateo, Burlingame, but some people in the East Bay Hills also let us know that they saw them. If you have any really cool pictures, we'd love
Those
to
are
see them.
amazing.
Yeah, they're called fall streak holes or
Okay.
hole punch
See,
clouds.
We knew Lawrence would know. So they're not UFOs.
Yeah, they're not UFOs. Actually, you know what? Those are made in altocumulus clouds, and what happens is those cloud droplets are actually super cooled, which means they're colder than that freezing point, but they're not frozen.
Those are
And if you
amazing.
get like a plane that flies through, all of a sudden you get a little piece of ice that develops, and then it kind of just cascades, and all of a sudden you get all these ice crystals forming along that, and they fall out of the bottom of the cloud.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
The way you just put that is
You can only say it
I knew
once.
you would know.
There you go. Just want to share that. I thought that was pretty cool. I always like things up in the clouds. There's a cool video I'm going to show you, actually, speaking of things in the clouds. And that should be coming up here in just a little bit. So let's see. Moving on to the next. Michigan school replaces homecoming queen title. Chelsea, Michigan. A Michigan high school has decided to stop crowning homecoming queens amid bullying issues. Chelsea High School decided to stop the outdated tradition because of its competitive and stereotypical nature, according to a student council letter. The homecoming queen process often left girls feeling pitted against each other, bullied, or with hurt feelings. We don't want one of the biggest awards at our school to be associated with pretty or popular stereotypes, or to be limited to a specific category of students. Student Council President Drew Vanderspool wrote in the letter, I don't know this kid, but his name sounds like some kind of an iconic villain, doesn't it? Drew Vanderspool. You know? That just sounds like some kind of an iconic villain. Like, that's a name that could make some people shake. Have you heard who's coming to town? Who? Drew Vanderspool. Dun, dun, dun. You can just feel it. You can see it, right? Drew Vanderspool. It's a good villain's name. Responses to the change have mostly been positive, though some students who were hoping to be named homecoming queen are disappointed, said Maddie Dunlap, a sophomore and the Student Council Public Relations chairperson. It was an issue that we've had for a long time, and we never got around to solving it, Dunlap said. We thought it was time for a change. The change follows the high school's 2006-17 #WhyYouMatter campaign, which highlighted contributions by students and staff. Student council members believed the homecoming queen tradition clashed with the project's message, said Adam Schilt, an English teacher and student council advisor. The school will instead hand out a new excellence award, which will be open to students regardless of gender. The Excellence Award helps to shift what we value, Schilt said. Schilt. Adam Schilt. The new award will consider students' academic, social, and emotional attributes, said Valerie Johnson, an English teacher and a student council advisor. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about this? It's an outdated tradition. Everything's changing anyway. Everything's changing. Like beauty pageants, they're pretty much on their way out, right? Then celebrating your illness is in, or celebrating being obese is in. Or celebrating your cancer. We see stuff like that. Celebrate your sickness, guys. While it's the system that makes us sick. But then we're taught to celebrate these things. And celebrate your obesity. Celebrate your heart disease, guys. All right? It's a gift from God. All right? Anyway, it's a topsy-turvy world. It really is, isn't it? This one's pretty interesting as well. I need to include this in like another video. There's always news stories I find I really like a lot, and I put them away for something later, and they'll pop up later, and this is kind of one of them. U.S. Coast Guard, which I was a member of, by the way. I was active duty U.S. Coast Guard proudly for 8 years of my life, but U.S. Coast Guard member removed after making offensive OK sign on live TV. How dare you? And it's this, but it's it's how these symbols, they always stay the same, but then, they adapt. And we're taught new ways to look at these symbols and even a lot of these words that have come out of the fringe, kind of movements, and come out of the study of Satanism and Illuminati and things like this. And then we see this stuff normalized in these really weird ways like this. And also the word triggered. Triggered, for years when I heard that, I was always thinking of people who suffered from SRA, satanic ritual abuse, or some kind of MK Ultra, or any kind of mind control. When you hear the word triggered, it's like, oh, like there's something out there that triggered this person, brought them back to those moments, maybe triggered one of the personalities they've been, imprinted with, or whatever, but that was triggering. And now triggered is like a social justice warrior meme joke thing, where triggered means, oh, you got triggered politically, or you got triggered over that Make America Great Again hat, so. And it's still interesting because it still applies, if you think about it in a way, to mind control. The mind control people are under with this stuff, how much these things affect people, MAGA hats and things like this, people getting triggered into violence even. Anyway, so now you get the okay sign, which is usually with entertainment and whatnot and mainstream media associated with the 666. We see this all the time. But now somehow they're turning it into a, let's see what they say here. The U.S. Coast Guard says it removed a member from its Hurricane Florence response team Friday after he made an okay hand gesture on live TV that the service branch deemed offensive. The unidentified team member was caught looking into the camera and then swiftly making the hand gesture, prompting a backlash on social media. The hand signal was seen in the background of MSNBC's live interview with Sector Charleston Commanding Officer Captain John Reed, who is providing an update on actions taken by the Coast Guard in response to Hurricane Florence. Anyway, there's the offensive okay sign. And I don't think this kid's using it in the sense of a 666. That's not, because people have taken this on to trigger people on the left now. For whatever reason, this is considered a white power symbol or something. We'll probably mention it here in this article. But so a lot of people use it just to trigger some of the more snowflakey people on the left, right? So let's see what we got here. Let's see. Many social media users called for the firing of the individual, accusing him of making a so-called white power hate symbol. Man, this is seriously, we are in crazy, creepy times, man. I'm serious. Reason and logic are out the door. There's no more civil discussion. Look what they're doing to this Les Moonves over at CBS, this guy that's been like the president over there for years. Some lady crawls out of the woodwork and says he did something to her 30 years ago, and now it's like this, destroy him. He must be. It's just an example. Again, it's not like I have a big thing for Leslie Moonves or I'm not a big supporter of CBS. There's nothing like that necessarily, really. It's just, first it's them, then it's us. This is a movement. This is more than just a one-time, two-time type thing. This is a movement. This is a change in people's consciousness. What's happening? It's crazy. So the Coast Guard is now investigating the matter. In a statement, the agency said the incident was a frustrating distraction amid the dangerous hurricane that is poised to affect more than 10 million people. Well, it's a good thing that got downgraded pretty quick. And, I'd like to think everyone's prayers out there really helped, because that was looking to be a real monster, but got downgraded pretty quick, and it seems people are rebuilding fairly quickly out there now. So let's hope it keeps going that way, keeps going good. So there you go. Oh, well, yeah, there was another one. Look at this. Wait, check this out. Oh my gosh, the ADL. If you've never looked into the Anti-Defamation League, They're going to be in one of my videos. I've got to just focus in on them a little bit. You may not have even heard of this group. You need to, though. They're in control of a lot of things right now when it comes to censorship and free speech. The ADL previously noted that the OK gesture isn't a hate symbol. Okay, well, that's good. How's the simple thumb and forefinger OK hand gesture become a white supremacist hand sign? Well, no, it hasn't, but you are likely to hear just the opposite from social media, thanks to the latest hoax from members of notorious website 4chan. Read a post from the anti-racism group. Well, that's good. You know, they're being reasonable there. That's good. But it's them and Snopes are apparently a couple of the groups working with Google and YouTube as far as fact checking and fake news checking. So just something to think about there. Earlier this month, liberal activists accused a Jewish Mexican former Trump administration official, Zena Gelman Bash, of making the white power hand gesture during the confirmation hearing of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, prompting derogatory descriptions of her as a neo-Nazi or white supremacist. And this is just insanity. You know, there you go. It looks like she's doing it. But I don't know. What do I know? But it's a white power symbol now? I don't know. It's crazy. Well, I mentioned this one in my last video just because, if you don't think this is a sign of the end times right here, Taco Bell voted best Mexican restaurant in the country. I mean, it just speaks for itself. The symbolism, I pointed that out in the last video. Like I said, I'd made a video on the symbolism with Taco Bell 6-7 years ago? And it shows you the 3 6s on every building, of course, the serpent eye, and it goes even deeper than that. There's more to see there, but point is it's there. To me, it's always been one of the most obvious with satanic symbolism or Illuminati type symbolism. And this is why now this corporation, this massive corporation, is pumping millions of dollars into this ad campaign that's mocking conspiracies and conspiracy theories. Millions of dollars into this. But there's nothing to see here, folks. Just move along. It's going to be okay. Just study more than half of trans male teens attempt suicide. A new study from the American Academy of Pediatrics shows an alarmingly high rate of suicide attempts among transgender teens, particularly trans boys. Nearly 14% of all adolescents in the study transgender adolescent suicide behavior based on data from Profiles of Student Life Attitudes and Behaviors survey from the Search Institute reported they had attempted suicide. But 51% of transgender males reported at least one attempt, the highest percentage of any gender identity group. The second highest was among non-binary teens, nearly 42%. Among transgender females, about 30% reported suicide attempt. The rate was 28% for questioning teens, nearly 18% for cisgender females. I don't even understand a lot of these words. And 10% for cisgender males. Anyway, it's a thing. I always think about that when I think about my faith, and following the ways of Christ. And, some people call it being a Christian. It's just that word nowadays to me. I just don't think it means what it used to. It certainly doesn't seem to. A lot of people misuse it. But I always think about this thing with, followers of Christ and people that are homosexual or part of the LGBTQ and all this. Because I know a lot of them do, still accept Jesus as their personal Lord and Savior, and they have him in their lives. And, they're just having issues with this, maybe they're not repenting of this, they're in it and they're involved in whatever. But my thing has always been that no matter what you're in or you're doing, if you have Jesus, you're good. I believe that. If you don't ever forget it, you maintain that relationship, you build it. But as long as you've got Christ, we're saved by his grace. We're saved through grace. We're saved through his sacrifice. He already did it. He already went up on the cross once. I don't need him to do it again and again and again, That's where you get into the law and grace and all this. But anyway, so that's the way I see it. So these people are saved, but the other side of it is that doesn't mean that we're free from the ramifications of the sins we're in. I mean, I deal with it too. We all are, involved with some sin, right? And there's ramifications to these things. Things we have to deal with. Things are going to come back to you. So, that's the way I see it. It's like if you have Jesus, you're good. All right? And God loves us more than anything. And we need Christ as that connection to our Heavenly Father. But if you have that, gay, straight, LGBTQIA, whatever, you're good. I think you're fine. But this is something that, it'd be best for you not to be involved in. To be something it'd be best for you to not engage in. Just like I've got sins I need to work through and have worked through a lot, but there's still others, and you do, and he does, and she does. So anyway, so I see a lot of these people as being trapped, or they bought the lie. And, that's a part of it, Now you really got the enemy and his minions in your ear whispering these things, suicide. I'm probably just rambling right now. The Tonight Show cancels Norm Macdonald appearance after comedian's Me Too comment. I like comedy, and just like, I know that's not some great statement like, whoa, this dude likes comedy, but I mean, I like comedy. There's not a lot out there. Most of it is so dark and just dreary, out there. I've been meaning to do a video on just how pitiful mainstream comedy has become, it seems, and how vicious and nihilistic, and very anti-Christian, of course, very much so. But there's still some comedians I like, and Norm Macdonald's one of them I've always liked. He's just weird, he's got his own way. There's no one else like him. I can appreciate that in these days. It's hard to find that nowadays, I think. Always liked him, but this is really sad. I don't want to play the clip because I'm sure it'll get claimed, but you should watch. He went on in The Witch's Den. He went on that show, The View. Ugh. Can you imagine? He went on that show, The View, into The Witch's Den, and they crucified him over this stuff. And this is a guy that's known for his political incorrectness and speaking his mind and just putting stuff out there. And it was really painful to watch him on there. I couldn't handle much of it, but it was really painful to see them just pecking at him, in The Witch's Den. But anyway, Norm Macdonald's appearance on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon was hastily canceled Tuesday after the comedian stirred controversy with remarks about the Me Too movement and the treatment of Louis C.K., Chris Hardwick, and Roseanne in recent scandals. Out of sensitivity to our audience and in light of Norm Macdonald's comments in the press today, The Tonight Show's decided to cancel his appearance on Tuesday's telecast, NBC said in a statement. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink here. Okay. Tonight Show's decision to drop Macdonald came even after he apologized for his comments later in the day. In an interview with Hollywood Reporter, Macdonald said he was happy the Me Too movement had slowed down a little bit. He further opined, it used to be 100 women can't be lying, and then it became one woman can't lie. And that became, I believe all women. And then you're like, what? Like that Chris Hardwick guy. I really thought he got the blunt end of the stick there. He also stated that he felt Roseanne Barr was treated harshly in the storm that ensued after she likened Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett to an ape in an early morning tweet in May. Barr was fired and her Roseanne sitcom revival was canceled within hours. It was ultimately revived as The Conners without Barr's involvement. I was just listening to an interview with her. I'm going to use some of this interview I was listening to a couple days ago in a new video I'm working on. It's just some classic stuff. It's very, very good. It's Roseanne. It's an interview with Roseanne. And she was saying that I don't keep up with these shows, hers and all this, but if you care, she was talking about how brutally they got rid of her too from her own show and all that, and how all these people just stabbed her in the back, the producers and all that. But she's saying that the way they're going to explain her death is from opioid overdose. So they're giving her just one final kick right in the craw, right out the door. Here, take this with you. We're gonna make you a junkie that died of an OD, and that really seems to have set her off, and you can't blame her, But anyway, so it's interesting stuff though. But she's talking about some stuff about mind control in Hollywood, and it's very interesting on there. Anyway, McDonald, who got his start as a writer working on Barr's original ABC series, described Barr's and Louis C.K.'s struggle. C.K. lost his deal with effects, among other projects, after revelations of his misconduct. His was creepy. I'm definitely with that. And that's all like fairly recent stuff, too. It's not like they're going back into his high school days. And, he pulled a girl's bra strap, back in 1985, destroy him now, But he is gross. And I've never liked his comedy personally. And he's one of these guys it's always very depressing. He seems like a very depressing person. But anyway, he is kind of creepy. So I think he deserved his stuff. But it's all mixed together, unfortunately. It's just like this juggernaut. It's just destroy everything in its path, right? There are very few people that have gone through what they have, losing everything in a day, McDonald said. Of course, people will go, what about the victims? But you know what? The victims didn't have to go through that. McDonald later apologized for minimizing the pain of victims of sexual abuse and harassment with his comments. Anyway, he's set to launch a new internet series called Norm Macdonald Has a Show on Netflix here in just about a week or so. So that's one I've been kind of looking forward to, and it looks like he may have to really. It's going to really stink if he's got to start watching everything he says, which I'm guessing that's probably what's going to happen. But I don't know. We'll see. But this is just it's the time we're in. Witch hunt for real. It's even being led by a bunch of Hollywood witches. Woman who wrote How to Murder Your Husband arrested for allegedly murdering her husband. This is so classic. All right, let's see if there's a story here. I think there is. So, and watch the clip.
Honestly, could have been written in the pages of a book. Police in Oregon arrested a romance novelist for allegedly killing her husband. Nancy Crampton Brophy is currently being held in Portland on charges of murder and unlawful use of a weapon. Police say the 68-year-old shot her husband, Daniel Brophy, at the Oregon Culinary Institute where he worked. He died at the scene. In an ironic twist, though, this woman you see here once wrote an essay titled How to Murder Your Husband. She's expected back in court next week. An Apple...
Interesting, eh? I thought that was interesting. Speaking of interesting, we'll file this under there's something you don't see every day. But I just wanted to share. I read the title of this video like in a forum before I watched it. And I was like, I really need to watch that. I don't know why. It was something like women in hajibs or whatever beating the crap out of each other or something. And I was like, now there's something I've never seen before. So anyway, I figured I'd share. Let's see if we can make this a little bigger. There we go. And for your viewing enjoyment, I guess. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I can't take my eyes off it. So there you go. Maybe one more time. Oh, so I mean, look, that's what it was. This lady, they're knocking each other over the head. She's trying to hold this toddler. Look at that. Drops the toddler for a second, picks it up, drops it again, gets a couple more punches in there, a couple kicks, picks up the toddler again, drops again. Toddler doesn't know what's going on. I mean, it's a toddler. The toddler's like, mama, mama. And meanwhile, just like mass chaos here. Look at this. Really, though, this is something you just don't see every day. You can't just say you walk down the road and something like this is popping off. It just doesn't happen. So I don't know. I wanted to share it with you. I hope you appreciated it. I'm not sure. Sometimes I find these random weird things, and I'm always like, instead of just deleting this and forgetting it, I think I should share this with the people. They need to see this from time to time. And it's a nice break, too. Some of the stuff we get into can be pretty heavy-handed, so it's always nice to have a bit of a doom break from time to time. More Yale freshmen identify as LGBTQ than conservative, survey finds. A Yale Daily News survey of freshman students at the university found that more students of the class of 2022 identify on the LGBTQ spectrum than as conservative, and that queer freshmen even outnumber other sizable demographics in the class, such as Protestants and Catholics. The beast approaches. The paper's survey, the results of which are composed of 864 respondents, or just over one half of the freshman class, found that only 9% of respondents identified as somewhat conservative, with 1% identifying as very conservative. LGBTQ respondents, on the other hand, greatly outnumbered conservatives in total. According to the survey, nearly 5% of respondents identify as gay, and just over 9% as bisexual or transsexual. 3% opted not to answer, and the remaining 8% identified as asexual, ace spectrum, or questioning their sexual orientation. There's so much to think about, right? I guess. Didn't realize this was so complicated. This combined demographic outnumbers even Protestants and Catholics, whom the survey identified as 16% and 15% of the incoming class, respectively. A 2018 Gallup poll estimated that 4.5% of all Americans identified as LGBTQ. No way. Can't be that much. Wow. It's growing quickly. I think that's a large percent. It's a lot it's a lot bigger than what I thought it was. People that identify as LGBTQ, just a few years back, it was less than 2% were gay, I thought. But anyway, what do I know? Things are moving fast. Liberal students in the class of 2022 also greatly outnumber conservatives on campus, according to the Daily News' findings. Nearly 3/4 of surveyed students identified as liberal, with 30% identifying as very liberal. These disparities are mirrored in the faculty composition at Yale. A 2017 Daily News survey of Yale professors found that 3/4 identified as liberal, while less than 10% identified as conservative. Over 90% of faculty members in the humanities identified as liberal, while that number hovered in the mid-60s for STEM faculty. I don't know what that means. Yale's Dean of Student Affairs, Camille Lazarabar. That's a nice name. It's a funny name to say. Lazarabar. Camille Lazarabar did not respond to requests for comment on whether Yale was taking steps to increase ideological diversity on campus. Lazarabar was prominent last year in the debate over changing the term freshman to the gender-neutral term first year in university communications. Cameron Kaufman, the president of the school's William F. Buckley Jr. program, said that it is not surprising that so many students on campus lean left, and that it would be obvious if one were to spend a few days at Yale, sit in on class, and talk to people. The best thing the university can do is make sure that conservatives on campus feel comfortable voicing their opinions and ensuring that students understand that the administration firmly supports free speech and intellectual diversity. All right. There you have it. The world's changing. It's changing. Lazarabar. It just sounds like maybe not a villain, but like a creature. Like we had the villain earlier, but that sounds like the monster, out in the cave that'll get you, the Lazarabar. You tell your children stories at night to keep them in bed. Tell them frightening stories of the Lazarabar crawling into their rooms at night, through the window as they sleep, and nestling under their bed, and just waiting for them to step down so the Lazarabar can grab them, pull them under the bed, out the window, and back into the Lazar Bar's lair, a cave in the woods where they will never, ever be seen again. There's your nighttime stories for your children. You're welcome. Ad agency darkens skin of students in school photo to promote diversity. I tried to watch some of that Emmys last night. It's really difficult. And I always watch these things, of course, just for symbolism or whatever. It's just I've always been that way. For years, it's when I watch these shows, I'm looking for that stuff. And some of you guys, you've probably seen some of the videos I make on these things. If I find something, I'll make a video on it. But anyway, it was really hard to sit through that one last night. It was kind of terrible. But they also kept talking about diversity. It's just, that was even the opening. There's an opening singing sequence, singing and dancing sequence, where they kept talking about diversity. And then they had can't remember the guy's name, but some comedian guy come down on a moon. And he got down there and he's like, hey, is there any room here for a straight white guy? And they're all like, no, get out of here, you piece of trash or whatever. So they kick him out of there and they continue with their song about diversity. So cringy, stomach churning. It's rough stuff. Rough stuff. Students in Lyon, France, posing for a school photograph had their skin artificially darkened by an ad agency in order to promote diversity in the United States. Lyon, France. Something's wrong there. I got to figure out where this place is. France. Anyway, I'm not sure. Maybe. The Emile Cole School posted an image of the smiling freshman students to Twitter. Oh, okay. They're planning to establish a branch in the U.S. All right. So there we go. My bad. Okay, we're good. So it is students in Lyon, France, posing for this photograph because the school is hoping to establish a branch in the U.S. And in this photo, they darkened a lot of their students. Can you see that stuff? After the school began receiving criticism over the manipulated image, they blamed the ad agency that provided the photo before suspending access to their own website, severing a contract with the agency, and issuing an apology. A spokesman for the school denied any intention to manipulate reality and pointed the finger at the ad agency for deliberately manipulating the photo in a bid to amplify a message of diversity for a U.S. audience. Twitter users reacted with scorn. They were scorned. White guilt and self-hatred has gotten out of control. This is a mental illness. That's so true. Madness, added another one. Maybe if the ad agency had just used an image from Sweden, they wouldn't have felt the need to manipulate it. Look at that. There's your diversity, guys. You're welcome. Instead, they manipulate this picture. Yeah. It's a crazy world. Crazy world we're in. This is Madonna's daughter. The only reason I brought this up is I thought it was weird that she had hairier legs than I do. That's all. So I'm just going to scoot down to the legs part here. Well, there she is as a little kid. And then here's her legs. Look at that. That's her legs. That's Madonna's daughter. Madonna needs to teach her daughter how to shave them legs. Isn't that something? I don't know. Maybe it's not that big a deal to you. To me, it is. I just can't. Oops. Anyway, there you go. Hairy legs. Madonna's kid has hairy legs. News at 11. Fury over beheading art exhibition where the public pretend to be murdered by Jihadi John. The artwork, which is part of an exhibition at the Gogbot Art and Music Festival in the eastern Dutch city of Enschede, I'm not sure, features a full-size picture of ISIS terrorist Jihadi John dressed entirely in black printed on a wooden board. Next to the ISIS executioner sits his victim dressed in an orange jumpsuit down on his knees shortly before being beheaded. The face of the victim is, however, cut out of the board, which allows visitors to the art exhibition to pose for a picture as an ISIS victim. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? Here's a random story alert. I'll share this one real quick. I was just thinking about this. So, as much as I'm into kind of the fringier type stuff and sometimes creepier, weirder, stranger, news and stories and footage and all that, I can't stomach real life violence, of course. I've never had a need or a want to go and watch that kind of stuff online. When I was in college, I wound up seeing something I didn't mean to see. And it's one of those things that I don't even like thinking about it now. I mean, it's just imprinted in your mind and you'll never forget it. I can't remember what the name of the victim was, but it was one of those videos of these terrorists, ISIS terrorists. They had this American guy in a room, and it just showed them, take a knife, holding his head, and no cutting away, no editing. It showed them just slicing this dude's head, and it was crazy, and just it happened so fast. But I mean, I was playing poker in my apartment complex during college. I was playing poker with some guys that lived pretty close, and to get to the restroom, you had to go through one of the guys' bedrooms. His name was Paul, and he might still be listening to this. I won't say your last name, but you changed your last name maybe 5 years ago. If it's you, Paul, Los Angeles Paul, we'll say too. But he was in his room as I was going through. I was going to run to the restroom. He said, "Hey, man, come here and check this out." And as soon as I walked over there, he goes, presses play, and he plays that execution. And I watched. I mean, it just happened so fast. And by the seconds you're kind of realizing what you're watching, it's like I couldn't turn away. But man, that stayed in my head forever. Seeing the real thing like that is just horrible, man. It stayed with me forever. Anyway, just sharing. It's just random. I guess I won't be getting this picture taken. I will not be doing that myself. The controversial artwork called Phantom Pain was created by 22-year-old Ann Bothmer, who argued that lorries driving into crowds, bombings, and shootings caused a massive stream of irrational reactions. Bothmer wrote, "As a spectator of these attacks, we do not want to experience it, but we want to be a part of it." Seems legit, right? The overarching tone of the messages within the aftermath amplifies a feeling of collective victimization by European citizens. However, in comparison, there were only a few who were really present at the attacks, and the rest of Europe only perceived them through cinematic and photographic imagery. By using a provocative approach, my work unites these traumatic events with our own hyper-reality, whereby the spectator is able to review his or her position. Because you can call yourself a victim when you were not being present at one of those terrorist attacks. As soon as the work was unveiled, local politicians from different parties called for a removal. All right. And there you have it. There you have it. Bono was seen making a Nazi salute during a U2 concert in Paris as he mocked the leader of the far-right Sweden Democrats Party in the wake of the country's general election. Performing as his evil alter ego, Mr. Mephisto, Bono shouted the name of SD leader Jimmy Åkesson while throwing his right arm out after congratulating Sweden for discovering their Aryan potential. Åkesson's anti-immigration SD party won 17.6% of the vote, leaving Sweden in political deadlock with neither mainstream bloc strong enough to form a government. The country is now facing weeks, if not months, of political uncertainty and complex coalition talks as all other parties have refused to govern alongside. Okay. Yikes. It's a scary picture. Look at him. See if I can make that bigger. Look at this. It's freaky. I wouldn't even just be joking around and playing with stuff like that. That's just me. You don't want to invite those things, that kind of energy your way. It's me, though. It's just me. I know I'm old-fashioned. Stop it. Jim Carrey called out by Venezuelan journalist over support of socialism. This guy, too, he's become a real train wreck, I think. He's become a train wreck happening in slow motion. 1 week after Jim Carrey suggested we say yes to socialism, a Venezuelan journalist is speaking out against the actor's suggestion. We have to say yes to socialism, to the word and everything, Carrey, who's among the richest in Hollywood, said last week on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher show. We have to stop apologizing. In an article published in the Venezuelan outlet Runrunners, columnist Loreno Marquez argued that socialism is the root cause of the country's current state of crisis. Dear Jim, I admire you a lot, but sometimes it seems that the inability of Hollywood stars to understand politics is directly proportional to their talent. Oh, good one. Marquez began his column. I read that you said we have to say yes to socialism, to the word socialism, and to everything. Perhaps for you, as for all humanity, the word socialism sounds beautiful, he continued. The journalist went on to explain that while many define socialism as the antithesis of selfishness, synonym of concern for others, support for the weakest and their needs, of seeking health and education for all, in reality, Marquez believes socialism today has deep threats. Venezuela, what we find is just that our regime is not, for God's sake, the antithesis of selfishness, he wrote Wednesday. In Venezuela, dear Jim, from what I have just told you, there is no equitable distribution of wealth. Wealth is concentrated, as rarely before in our history, in very few hands. And that's the end of socialism anyway, right? That's where it eventually leads. Marquez explained that people in Venezuela are at God's mercy and are fleeing the country however way they can, as they do not have access to medication, food, or other basic needs. This is a tragedy that's compounded by the denial of a regime that claims that the population has never been better. There you go. Jim Carrey. It's like a train wreck happening in slow motion. This is interesting. I don't know if you ever heard of the Gray Man or not, but check this out. This happened in July. So I'll just play this.
A lot of intention indeed, and so much so that some online are worried that this photo could be a sign of bad things to come this hurricane season. A picture worth 1,000 words.
I don't know. It kind of looked funny. I don't know how to explain.
Johnny Cobb and his friends were taking pictures off their balcony at the Sea Cabins in Cherry Grove when the unusual happened.
We never seen with our eyes, just the picture took, I don't know. Weird.
The picture shows what seems to be a ghostly figure just outside the shine of a near light pole, taking a leisurely stroll down the pier. Paranormal experts I spoke with today say there's a history of spirits strutting their stuff along the Grand Strand.
And the belief is that they're either here because they have some unfinished business and they want to try to get a message around. They're here to tell their loved ones that they're okay, or they just like being here rather than crossing over.
Mike Neff of Brentwood Ghost Tours says local legend tells of a specter walking the beaches as a precursor to a rough storm.
The Gray Man shows up for hurricanes. When there's going to be a hurricane hit the coast, many people go down and check out on the beach and they see the Gray Man walking up and down on the coast. It's another one of those legends that many people have seen.
However, the man behind the video stays dry in all the debate.
I guess people believe what they want to believe, but I'm not saying it's a ghost, and I ain't saying it ain't a ghost.
So there you go. I thought it was interesting because that actually happened less than 2 months before the East Coast just got hit. So interesting, right? The Gray Man. It's one of those I'd never heard of. It's one of those creepy little paranormal, supernatural stories that escaped me. So there we have it. Very interesting, I think. And this is, well, good news for the college kids. Looks like college students to learn about queering the Bible and transgender Christs. Yes. It's going to be a good year. You're going to learn a lot of really important stuff. The nation's college students will have the option of taking classes discussing queering childhood, pass, queering the Bible, no thanks, and transgender Christs, better not, according to a report by campusreform.com. Pomona College in Claremont, California is offering the new class on queering childhood, which will discuss, quote, the figure of the child and how this figuration is used by politics, law, and medicine to justify continued cultural investment in reproductive heteronormativity and productive able-bodiedness. Campus Reform added that the class will focus on childhoods of queer and crip children. Crip. What would set you, rep? I'm blood. What set you, rep? I'm a crip. Crip children. Queer and crip children. No, it couldn't be those kind of crips. But still, I think that's kind of weird that they're cripple. I mean, it's crippled. Shouldn't we? I don't. Just seems weird. Crip. What sets you, rep? I'm a crip. Queer and crip children. And they'll spotlight works related to gender studies, childhood studies, disability studies, and queer theory. Eugene Lane College in New York City will offer a class on queering and decolonizing theology, which will examine the sexual ethics and ritualization found in the S&M community. All right. And transgender Christ. Christian theology is often depicted as a violent colonial force standing in particular opposition to LGBTQI lives. The Lane College course description reads according to campusreform.com. However, over the last 30 years, people of faith, activists, and theorists alike have rediscovered what is queer within Christianity, uncovered what is religious within secular queer communities, and used post-colonial theory to decolonize lived religious practices and theologies. Okay. All right. There you have it. There it is. Chubbs, would you please stop, sir? Please. Thank you, sir. Okay, now check this out. Here's a video. We get to watch a video together. It's a classic. This is a classic. Watch this.
My order. You won't understand what I'm saying?
Alexandria Montgomery recorded a cell phone video Wednesday night at the drive-thru at Taco Bell in Hialeah on East 9th Street.
No hay nadie que hable inglés.
In the video, a Taco Bell employee is heard telling Montgomery and a friend in her car that she couldn't serve them because they don't speak Spanish, and the employee does not speak English.
I'm trying to order and she's telling me I can't order because she doesn't speak English. Who's wrong? What did I do wrong?
We spoke with Montgomery on Friday about the experience of being refused service because she doesn't speak Spanish.
It really made me feel like, wow, I don't belong here, and I grew up here my whole life. No, I want to order. You're not going to tell me to leave and I want to order.
The interaction at the drive-through window lasted several minutes, and Montgomery said one thing that jarred her was when the employee shut the window on her.
That was very rude because I told her I was not moving until you take my order.
The conversation at the window continued.
That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't mean nothing because this is Hialeah. This is America.
Montgomery felt the employee didn't try to work with her on her order, so she began recording.
My thing is, don't shut me out. Try to assist.
Montgomery posted the video to Facebook, and it got lots of attention. She followed up with the Taco Bell store manager and said she received an apology. She said she also spoke with their corporate leaders, too. Montgomery feels it's important for the community to know that these language and cultural barriers happen even in a melting pot like South Florida, and that we should all work harder to prevent them.
I want this to get out so people can know.
Prevent them.
See, that is a 6. See? Look underneath that bell. That is a perfect 6. And there's 3 on every Taco Bell. 2 on the sides, 1 on the front. 666 with that darn old serpentine all-seeing eye right there in the middle.
I want this to get out so people can know and be aware of situations like this, that this happens, so it does not happen again.
It's pretty wild, huh? In America, that happened. In America, at the best Mexican restaurant in America, Taco Bell. Here's one that I just haven't known what to do with. I wanted to put it in something, but I just kept putting it off, and it's from a few months back now, but it's just really interesting. And it's been seen millions and millions and millions of times. Not on this one, on this channel, but on other places. It's been out there, and it's really, really been seen by a lot of people. But check this out. And a lot of those have ads on them. That's why I'm trying to show you this one so I don't get hit. But we'll see.
But I know who got our power.
I'll tell you what you're going to see. Just look up there and look for something walking on the cloud. It's crazy, I know, but watch.
But I know who got our power. Somebody say something. Look at that hole right there in the sky. Look at that hole right there in the sky. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? Look at that hole in the sky. That's who got the power right there.
Isn't that wild? Watch it one more time. There'd been a big storm in this area, and there was like that hole right there, kind of illuminated hole, and she was just pointing that and saying, that's our Lord, right? And then you see that it looks like a massive figure walking on the cloud. It's crazy. Check it out.
But I know who got our power. Somebody say something. Look at that hole right there in the sky. Look at that hole right there in the sky. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? Look at that hole in the sky. That's who got the power right there.
Isn't that wild? Anyway, I've been sitting on that one for a while. It's one of the coolest I've seen in a long time. Probably in another month or so, I'll just do a big compilation or something, because I got so many cool videos I've seen. There's a lot of great channels here on YouTube that have a good eye for this stuff, and they don't all show the same thing. There's about 4 or 5 of them I'm a fan of, but anyway, this was one of them that made the rounds. The biohacker who experimented on himself is making do-it-yourself mutant frogs. Josiah Zahner will sell you a frog biohacking kit for $499. Josiah Zahner cursed under his breath as blood pooled into the thin skin of his subject's leg. He checked for vital signs, no breathing. I think I might have got the vein on that one accidentally. Zahner, who had just administered an experimental injection, has a PhD in biochemistry and biophysics from the University of Chicago. But to his patient, such credentials were meaningless. The leg in question belonged to a Hyla cinerea, a small green tree frog not more than 2 inches long. The idea was to inject a genetic cocktail to make the frog's muscles grow larger. A few hours later, the frog was back to its usually hoppy self, but it was touch and go for a while. A year earlier, that gushing blood might very well have been Zahner's own. He's garnered attention and headlines for publicly self-administering experiments in a kind of performance art meets biohacking theatric for a live audience and those watching on YouTube. He once invited a reporter to witness a self-administered fecal implant to treat an irritable stomach. The procedure entailed swallowing a pill filled with a friend's doo-doo. Wow. He attempted to genetically modify his skin cells to turn a patch a darker color, and, as he did to the frog, he injected himself with a DNA mix in a bid to bulk up his muscles. Should one feel inspired to recreate some of Zahner's antics at home, he'll sell you the tools to do so on his company website, the Odin. Odin. You know who Odin is. In the Silicon Valley's answer to vaudeville, or is Zahner at the forefront of a movement in which biotech is trickling down to garage entrepreneurs in the same way that democratized computer and coding technology let curious tinkerers build Silicon Valley? For now, Zahner has turned his attention to critters after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration issued a warning on the sale of gene therapy products for do-it-yourself human use. For $499, anyone can order a kit containing 6 frogs, cages, food, and all the materials necessary to replicate Zahner's frog muscle therapy at home. Zahner believes the experiment is legal. The Animal Welfare Act exempts cold-blooded animals, including frogs, which the FDA regards as a minor species anyway. Maybe not minor enough, though, after their DNA has been altered. The FDA does not regulate the kits you mentioned, however. The agency does regulate animals that contain intentionally altered genomic DNA. Interesting. So there, you could buy that, get that kit. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's out there. Here's something I'm sure most of you saw. It's just so classic. Classic example, fake news in action. Fake news in action. Check this out.
Okay, picking it up here in Wilmington, North Carolina, right at the Intracoastal, and we're in one of these vans. This is about as nasty as it's been. We had some vans like this last night, and then the eyeball this morning, we were not on TV. It was the dark and raucous.
I mean, that's just classic. It's just classic. Totally speaks for itself. Fake news. I'm going to come back to that one. I already mentioned this. I really don't want to necessarily go through all this part. It's just, like I told you, boring and awkward. They're talking about the Emmys and how terrible they are. And I always like seeing stuff like this when it comes to the mainstream type entertainment. You know, it's really nice to see people waking up to the point where they're not engaged as much as they used to be. You know, people are turning on this. A lot of this stupid mainstream entertainment they call entertainment. That's all. Nothing major. Just cringy. Here we go. It's for you cat fans out there. Cat causes power outage in New Orleans. I don't know if that's the cat or not, but he definitely looks like he's filled with mischief. He's mischievous, this one. A cat got into an Entergy New Orleans substation on Monday, knocking out power for thousands of customers. According to Facebook posts from Entergy, a cat made its way into a substation that supplies power to Upton, Central City, Mid-City, and the Central Business District in New Orleans shortly before 9 a.m. Upon coming into contact with the equipment, the cat, quote, caused a flash, which knocked out power to customers in those areas for several hours. Crews had restored the power to all but 200 customers around 10:30 a.m., and all customers had power by 11:15. Although smaller animals such as squirrels sometimes find their way into substations, Entergy said in a Facebook post that it's unusual for a cat to get into a substation. There are protective devices installed to keep animals out of harm's way. But if they do manage to get in, they will shut it down. They will shut it down, especially if it's a cat. The animals, unfortunately, do not survive contact with high-voltage equipment. Yeah. There you go. Kitty, kitty. And this is just, do we really need to hear this? This is, now they're saying Bert and Ernie are gay, says the writer, but Sesame Street insists they're just non-sexual puppets. Well, yeah. For years, that's been a joke, a meme as well about these two being lovers. And it's just, again, is nothing sacred? Like, seriously, that's when I see this stuff, I'm just like, oh, yeah, I forgot I'm living in the beast system. But, is nothing at all sacred, I'm not saying that wasn't any good for your children in the first place, but still. Toddlers tied to car seats by their necks at a Texas daycare center. And she looks like a psychopath. I mean, I'm not to judge someone on their looks, but that's just, she looks scary, this person. She looks dangerous to me. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know. Shouldn't be judging. All right. I get it. Still, all right. She looks scary, man. The owner of a Texas daycare center has been arrested after a hidden camera reportedly caught her tying small children to their car seats and leaving them in a dark closet for hours. Rebecca Anderson, 60, is being accused of child endangerment for her treatment of babies and toddlers at her home daycare center, Becky's Home Child Care in Mesquite. The arrest warrant affidavit alleges that Anderson kept the small children tied up for at least 7 hours. At 7 hours. What? 7 hours a day. According to police, Anderson said 5 kids were inside the house when they arrived on Friday. However, 4 more were found in a dark closet with shoelace-like ropes tied around their necks. The warrant also claims the owner yanked a 6-month-old baby by the bib and drugged them with unnecessary doses of acetaminophen to keep them quiet. Anderson reportedly admitted to police that She had likely given Tylenol to all of the children. The father of one of the children said he witnessed the abuse and Anderson feeding his child something with a syringe via a hidden camera he attached to his baby's car seat after he became suspicious. Oh boy. The children were taken to the Children's Hospital in Dallas for evaluation. Anderson's booked on 9 counts of child endangerment. The bond set at 62 G's. Yo. Anne Hathaway denounces white and straight privilege in an award acceptance speech as she's honored at the Human Rights Campaign National Dinner in Washington, D.C. Ugh. More of this. More of this. The Oscar winner addressed the room as ladies, gentlemen, and gentle them. It's important to acknowledge, with the exception of not being a cisgender male, everything about how I was born has put me at the current center of a damaging and widely accepted myth, she said. That myth is that gayness orbits around straightness, transgender orbits around cisgender, and that all races orbit around whiteness. Hathaway told of how she learned to reject the idea when she spent time with her older brother, who's gay. I appreciate this community because together we are not going to just question this myth. We are going to destroy it. She told the crowd, let's tear this world apart and build a better one. Like Thanos and the Antichrist. Hathaway's entire family left the Catholic Church and converted to Episcopalianism after her elder brother came out. Okay. It's about enough of that. Huge rise in school-age girls seeking gender reassignment prompts UK government research. A huge rise in the number of school-age girls seeking gender reassignment, which has seen an increase from 40 to 1,806 referrals in 8 years. Thanks, Obama. From 40 to 1,806 referrals in 8 years. The world's changing fast, has prompted the UK government to request a study into the reasons behind the surge, because confusion's spreading. For real, though. Minister for Women and Equality's Penny Mordaunt has ordered research into the reasons behind the sharp rise in gender reassignment referrals among all children, but particularly girls. Ooh, the Tavistock. There we go. The Tavistock Institute in Portman Trust. I'm guessing that's the Tavistock Institute. The only place in England and Wales to offer it, of course, to offer a gender. I need to do a video on the Tavistock Institute sometime. I don't think I've talked about it in a long time. In Wales to offer a gender identity service in the NHS for 18-year-olds has witnessed a big surge in girls referred to its gender identity development service for children. The world's changing quickly. Where all these people are turning into Baphomets before my very eyes. I thought this was just an interesting one here. Post Malone, who's a rapper, if you didn't know, cursed after messing with most haunted object. Before a string of unfortunate events. This is interesting. Of course, the pictures they have, he's flashing his horns, and he's got his checkerboard on. So we know that. We got that. But beyond that, let's see what's going on here. From the mid-air emergency, which saw his private jet make a landing without its wheels a couple weeks ago, to the car crash and home invasion where gun-toting thieves yelled for the rapper when breaking into his old house, the star hasn't been having the best time. And in a video released today, Post might have messed with the wrong demon. Hanging out with Ghost Adventures star Zach Baggins at his haunted museum sounds spooky enough already. The rock star rapper can be seen touching the shoulder of Zach, who is touching the object that is normally hidden behind protective glass. Now we know why the glass is in place. Post is holding a beer, making it appear they're enjoying a low-key social hangout in the museum, as you do, before the two flee the room. In the video obtained by TMZ, he had grabbed Zach as the two of them run out of the room, perhaps knowing they had awoken a curse. Perhaps the object in question was the Dibuk box. And there it is. Dibuk is Yiddish for malicious spirit, and the box inspired the horror flick The Possession. Zach told the publication the happening went down in June, which makes sense on the timeline. We guess curses take a few weeks to really kick into gear. The star said that by Post touching his shoulder as he himself touched the box, it was enough to trigger a curse. But hang on, if Post is cursed merely from touching his shoulder, surely Zach has something coming for actually touching the darn box. Hasn't been the best time for Post as of late, though, after his plane was caught up in a mid-air drama, and he was also involved in a car crash last week. And that was before 3 thieves broke into his old house and demanded to see the rapper before taking off with 20 grand in jewelry and mobile phones. Interesting, eh? What do you think about that? Do you believe in curses? I do. There's plenty of evidence that objects can be cursed and we shouldn't mess with them. Anyway, there you go, man. I think that concludes my news stories, if you will, for the week. So I'm jumping over here to the chat now. Hey, I will be doing just a hangout chat sometime this week. I want to do one just for me. Also, a huge thanks, guys, for 400,000 subscribers. I mean, maybe I'll just do a separate video for that. We can hang out and talk. But I mean, in today's YouTube environment, that's a big deal. And it took me a long time to get from 300 to 400, but I'm very grateful for it. Thank you. I know there's some new people listening here tonight. Thanks so much. I just came off of a bit of a break, had some health things to deal with, but I'm back. I'm doing much better. I've got a lot of work to do, more shows to do. And Mike from On Point Preparedness, we got in touch with each other. He wants to do a show also. So I'll either be on his show or he'll be on mine. I'm not sure yet. We'll figure it out. Thanks again, too, for my wonderful mods. Mia, by the way, I'm glad to see you're back and you're doing better. I didn't even notice if you're in here tonight or not, but I'm sure you'll probably be listening later, you and your family. And like I said, I'm glad to see you're doing better. I know you had your health scares there as well. And, oh, there you are. You are here. Thanks, Mia. Good to see you. And yeah, YouTube's still grumpy sometimes. They didn't let me monetize my latest videos. So if you guys, just thank you for watching the videos, sharing them. It helps to get the views even on other videos. If you want to support the work, there's a link to Patreon below the video. Also, if you want something in your hands, a way to support the work and get something in return, please check out Silver Botanicals. This is my sponsor. They're awesome dudes for staying with me as long as they have. I appreciate it. It looks like it's actually been paying off finally. It took us a while, but it looks like some of you guys are getting their products and actually returning. So that's really good. Check out their essential oils that only you can get through them, like their own specific that they create, essential oils. Check out their household products as well. Get rid of those carcinogens in your home. And check that out. There you go, guys. All right. Hey, I'll let you go for now. But, thanks again. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it. This is the part where I usually just start rambling. So I'm going to go ahead and just go. But God bless you, man, for real. And it's nice that we can get together like this and check out some of these topics. And a lot of them can be scary, but we don't have to be scary about it or let it freak us out. We can keep a sense of humor about such things. Okay. Anyway, man, y'all take care and I'll talk to you later. Okay. I'll see you.